Thank you for watching. This is the E for One Entertainment for One podcast. I'm your host, Anthony, and do like this video, but most importantly, I'm close to almost 4,000 subscribers, so I would greatly appreciate it if, and only if, you like this content that I'm providing right here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and check out some of my older material too on this channel because I think it's quite rather good. But today I'm talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. One of the reasons that I personally feel that Nightmare on Elm Street pretty much ran its course and got burnt out pretty early into its incarnation of the franchise, which would probably be most likely, I would say, after the third film, The Dream Warriors. Oversaturation had a lot to do with it. They were coming out with so many films at such a fast rate that the quality of the films wasn't nowhere near as good as the quantity and fast rate that they were coming out with these films. In the first two films, Freddy Krueger was that figure that was terrifying. Like, even the makeup of Freddy Krueger, and when I say makeup, I mean like the physical mask and the physical prosthetics that they use for Robert Englund in the film. Freddy Krueger looked like he was literally a burned victim, like freshly burnt victim. Like, picture someone coming out of the fire freshly burned. The makeup and prosthetics were so spot on and on point in those first two films. But then as we started to get to Nightmare 3, Dream Warriors, it started to look more cheesy, started to look more cheap, and they started to go a more comical route going into the third film, The Dream Warriors, and definitely into Nightmare 4 and 5. They were pretty much turning Freddy Krueger, this menacing, haunting, horrifying villain, into a guy that was pretty much reduced to one-liners and a comedy routine. Freddy became a victim of the movie's the movie franchise's success. Freddy was on MTV. The film was making money, so they saw that as a way to capitalize off of it. Rightfully so. They turned the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise into an anthology series. And it only lasted, I think it was one season, and it was called Freddy's Nightmares, whereas it was sort of like The Twilight Zone or the Alfred Hitchcock Show, to where it was a weekly anthology series. Now, the character Freddy Krueger wasn't in the anthology series, and he was in every episode, but it was a more or less of Robert Englund. Freddy Krueger was doing like an introduction into the episode to let you kind of know what the episode was about. So Freddy did, like Robert Englund's character did, like an introduction and an outro, sort of like how Alfred Hitchcock did in his show. And I thought that was a good idea, but they didn't capitalize off of that like how they should. The anthology series Freddy's Nightmares, it was cheap. It wasn't that good of a quality of a product. Now, one of the drawbacks of having Freddy Krueger in every single episode of the anthology series, or not necessarily every single episode, because he did do an intro and an outro in the episodes, but having the whole anthology series, every episode based off of a Freddy Krueger tale or story, or having him do a kill in the series, is that you run into the problem of having him being oversaturated more than what he was at his height and popularity in the 1980s. And what I mean by oversaturation is you start to look at it from the standpoint of, what is the point of going to see Nightmare on Elm Street movies in the theater and making it into this huge spectacle that everybody goes to the theaters to see, when you could just tune in on your TV at home on your local TV station and watch Freddy weekly on his own show for 30 or 60 minutes, kill and do the things that he does in his movies. So you kind of, how can I say it? You lessen the thrill, and you cheapen the character by having him on TV for free to see, versus going to the movies and having to be this big event and big spectacle, seeing it like once a year or once every 2 years as at the rate that they were coming out with the film. So I get it. But the anthology series I thought was a good idea, but they just didn't do it right. Now, one of the things that I did like in that anthology series, but they executed it extremely wrong, was when they had one of the episodes in that series. It was pretty much a prequel of, and I can't remember the name of that specific episode, but it was pretty much a prequel of how Freddy Krueger became Freddy Krueger. The premise of the episode I thought was good, but like I said, the show, there really wasn't a lot of money put into the show, so it came across as looking very cheap. I thought that was very extremely dope how they had, they were ahead of the curve like 30 something years ago by having a prequel to Freddy Krueger while the series was still going on in the theaters. But what they could have did was use that same energy with that prequel and had that somehow intertwined into the actual films at the time. Or, it was just a very great idea that they have, but it was just executed terrible. And believe it or not, Freddy's Nightmares, the series actually has some legs here. It had 2 legs because it lasted for 2 seasons from 1988 until 1990. I thought originally it was only 1 season, so I had to look it up, and it lasted 2 seasons. But ultimately, in my personal feelings, the major thing that they did wrong, the movie franchise just took a horrible turn after the Dream Warriors #3. They went from a serious tone to having Freddy become more comedic. I thought Nightmare 4 and 5 were, definitely, even Nightmare 6, with Roseanne Barr and her husband, Tom Arnold. I thought those were probably 3 of the worst films, seriously. Now, one of the saving graces actually was New Nightmare. The synopsis was like a movie transitioning, reality transitioning into non-reality, a movie being transitioned into reality where reality has become like a movie. So I thought that concept was very good. I thought Freddy's makeup in that movie was pretty decent. It still looked a little cheesy for the most part, but I thought the overall concept of that movie was actually pretty good. So I think, overall there's 4 movies in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise that was pretty good. That was exceptionally well. 2 classic ones, which were the first 2. Dream Warriors was a very good movie, and then you have New Nightmare, in my opinion. So yeah, these are just my opinions of my thoughts. If you have any thoughts, like if you thought of something that I maybe forgot to mention, I would like to know what you think in the comment section. So hit me up in the comment section and let me know what you think about what was really the downfall, in your opinion, of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I would greatly appreciate it. It's the Entertainment for One podcast. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Have a great day.